We're going to talk about the migrant issue. This is an ongoing issue for, well, I think most of the country, but certainly for Conservative voters. The abject failure to actually deal with the huge number of migrants. 33,000 are known. That's just the ones we know about have crossed the Channel from France in this year, since the beginning of January. We're only in October. We saw on some days 1,200 plus people coming in one day. Suella Braverman, the new Home Secretary, has vowed to take this issue on. In an interview earlier in the week, she did talk about how now the number of migrants basically include 80% Albanians. Not a war-torn country, not people fleeing persecution, but just people paying the people traffickers. The latest plan to be announced by Suella Braverman in her speech this afternoon, today, is that bringing in a new law, effectively barring Channel migrants from ever claiming asylum in Britain, with a blanket ban, going further than what Priti Patel, the former Home Secretary, had done with her Nationality and Borders Act brought in earlier this year. Well, let's talk to Stephen Wolfe about this. He's Director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Good morning, Julie.
Another Home Secretary, another plan to tackle the Channel migrant issue. How confident are you that this one might actually work, such as we have detail about it?
I'm more confident. I'm not as phlegmatic about people's performances of Priti Patel. I think she had a hard job at the beginning, but she moved the process forward. The new immigration bill that became law was difficult. She had to fight the civil service to get it. She's had to take on some of the French, and she created the Rwanda plan, even in the face, again, once more, not only the civil servants, but the immigration legal industry. Now Suella Braverman is able to take on to the next step, and the really key and important step, and that is challenging those who believe in the European Court of Human Rights, which I believe is really just acting, the judges there act like bouncers, preventing law enforcement from stopping people traffickers making money.
I mean, yeah, there is a fundamental issue here as a country that has voted to have, national sovereignty. The idea that any foreign court should have jurisdiction over us. And America doesn't accept any courts having jurisdiction over them. Even with their trade deals with Canada and Mexico, they don't accept a court that tells them what they can and can't do with their borders. So there's certainly a big issue. But there is going to be a lot of fight back on this. Now, Priti Patel, to a certain extent, although she probably had exactly the same intentions as Suella Braverman, she didn't have a Prime Minister who backed her on this issue. Boris Johnson, I mean, he'd previously been very, shall we say, lax on the issue of immigration. It wasn't a big issue for him as a Brexit argument. It was just something that was still, contained in the Brexit deal. In terms of Suella Braverman getting the support from Liz Truss, and, we've seen that comment, that friend or foe, well, time will tell, remark from Liz Truss in one of the hustings. Do you think that actually, if the government is very clear that this is something they do care about and that they will then have to deliver?
Well, they have to be extremely clear about it. You're quite right that Boris Johnson only decided to turn up to the game of immigration once people started dying in the Channel and it became an international issue. The problem with Liz Truss is there's deep concerns about whether she really believes this and whether her Liberal Democrat open-door migration instincts of her past are still there, because she has pointed to the fact that she wants to open the borders to Britain to low-skilled immigration to try and solve another economic issue. And that therefore leaves people wondering whether she really will be strong behind this critical issue for those MPs like Jonathan Gillis, who was there on your programme a moment ago, who know that their constituents will be voting for the Conservative Party only if they decide to stop immigration. She has to be strong, and not just strong, she has to be as strong as Margaret Thatcher was and echo those sentiments when she really took on Europe.
Well, this is a very, very big issue, isn't it? But there's a big difference between, again, I'm still amazed at the number of people, certainly on the Labour side, who will be perfectly supportive of illegal immigration, as this is from people arriving from France, from a completely safe country, choosing to come to this country and pay people traffickers, and legal migration. But as I say, you have touched on an issue. Many people voting for Brexit, it wasn't just about immigration, it was about national sovereignty. It certainly was for me, and democratic accountability. For a lot of people, it was about being able to control our borders and choose who comes here. There is an argument, certainly, I'm sure we both agree, to have high-skilled immigrants who can benefit this country. But there's also an argument, I know that Liz Truss is making this, that actually we also need some other migrants to do the jobs that, frankly, our homegrown population won't do, the picking of the fruit and the veg and the like. There are lots of jobs working in care homes. There are lots of jobs, it would appear, that Brits don't want to do at the price currently being offered. So what is the solution?
Well, that goes much deeper question about the issues of economics to migration, immigration. One could argue why have 1.5 million 50-year-olds decided to leave the workplace after COVID? Is it because they are saying they want to have a better life, or is it because they're concerned about having to always face woke policies in their workplaces? Is it because they have to have constant lessons on diversity and stuff like that? That's what I hear. They say they don't want it anymore. What about taxation issues, improving the tax possibilities for those people coming back into the workforce? So Liz Truss has to look at how we improve our workforce, and bringing in low-skilled migration just isn't the only solution to it. It has to be broader, wider, and more cleverly thought out than those who simply say, bring in, ship them in.
Yeah, and again, once again, you're looking at a short-term solution, and therefore we never actually deal with a long-term solution. Like, why do we need to import doctors at a rate far higher than most other European countries? Because we don't train enough ourselves, and we need the impetus, the incentive to actually do that.
Well, that's right, and we've seen that before. I mean, when I produced the Leave Means Leave paper, a fair, flexible and forward-thinking immigration policy, we did analyse the issue about nurses and doctors, and one of the key points was talking to African nations who felt there was a modern form of colonialism where they'd be training their own nurses, and suddenly people from trusts here would be flying into their countries, offer larger salaries, and it wasn't doing them any good whatsoever. So our country needs to be about focusing on training our own, improving the conditions of people working here, improving their living standards, and making it exciting to work in British jobs, rather than complying with those large corporates who say, look, Liz, if you bring in mass migration, we can keep inflation down, but we do so by keeping wages down. That is not right, and it's not a modern way of dealing with it.
Which we then subsidise with benefits, quite bizarrely, while we're subsidising corporate profits there. 8:28 time. Big thanks to Stephen Wolfe there. Just a really quick one from Ali Marish. I mean, this is separating, legal and illegal immigration, but this is still a massive, big issue, isn't it?
Well, I think we were meant to be creating a high-skilled, high-wage economy. I mean, now there's been a realisation that actually there are massive gaps. People can't fill all the jobs, or they don't want to fill all the jobs. You need people to come and do this work.
There is an argument. Maybe when people are hungry enough, they will want to fill the jobs.
Well, there's also an argument that wages were going to go up. Well, they obviously haven't gone up sufficiently high enough to attract people.
Maybe we have to accept that we're going to have to pay more for certain goods to get people to, pick the strawberries or whatever it is. Anyway, we're going to get more from you throughout the next half hour. Plenty more top guests coming. This is Talk Breakfast.